What's up, YouTube? It's been a couple minutes since I've made a video, but I thought I would check in with you and express a little gratitude because this week, the podcast eclipsed 30 million downloads. 30 million downloads. I'm just blown away. I'm so thankful and grateful to all of you out there who have taken time out of your busy lives to give me your most precious asset, which is your attention. I really, truly, honestly can't imagine what my life would be like without the podcast. I've had this unbelievable experience of sitting down with some of the most compelling thought leaders and minds all over the world. And the fact that the program is enjoyed by so many people across the planet just warms my heart. It means everything to me. So thank you for that. And I think it's important to honor these kinds of benchmarks, to pause, to take a moment, to really reflect back. So I'm going to do that and kind of recap this journey that I've been on in hopes that my experience might be of some benefit to all of you creators and makers out there, because it has not been that easy of a journey. It has not been linear, for sure. 20 years ago, I was a drunk. I was an alcoholic, and the only future that I had was jails, institutions, and ultimately death. But by 31, I was able to get sober, and I started to begin the process of repairing all the wreckage that I had created as a result of my drinking and using. It took 10 years, but I was successful in that regard. By the time I was 39 years old, I was a successful attorney. I met my wife. We were building a family. We built a really nice home. I had a really fancy car in the driveway. But on the inside, I was dying. I was depressed, unenthusiastic about my life, and I'd put on 50 pounds. I was basically a junk food addict on a crash course with chronic lifestyle illness. And then I had a health scare shortly before my 40th birthday. And it was one of those moments in time where I realized not only that I needed to change how I was living, but that I actually wanted to, that I had the willingness to make some really significant lifestyle changes. I adopted a plant-based diet. I started getting fit again. I went on and conquered all these crazy ultra endurance races. And then about 6 years ago, I wrote a book about it. It's called Finding Ultra. It came out in May of 2012, and it kind of chronicles this wild journey that I've been on. And in the wake of that book, I started to think about what was next for me. What's the next chapter? What am I going to do now? I wrote this book, but where am I going to invest my creative energy? And I thought, maybe I'll start a podcast. I'd fallen in love with podcasts during all of my training for these crazy Ultraman races and doing Epic 5, because I was spending so much time on my bike, hours and hours and hours on my bike or running on trails. And I realized that I couldn't just listen to music that whole time, and I started listening to podcasts. And this was back in 2007, 2008. I took a look at what was going on in the health sector on iTunes and podcasting, and I realized that there wasn't that much great content. There were a few great shows, but there wasn't a lot of depth. And I thought, maybe there's something that I can contribute to this. And so in the fall of 2012, I got a microphone, I turned it on, and I just started talking. I had no agenda. I had no idea whether there would be an episode 2. I didn't know whether I would be any good at it. And I certainly didn't have any kind of grand design or goal that the show would morph and mature into the large entity that it is today. And just for context, I think it's important to understand that in 2012, it was not cool to have a podcast. I certainly wasn't an early adopter. Podcasting had been around since, I don't know, something like 2006. But in 2012, there wasn't the level of mainstream interest that we're seeing today. But I didn't care. It wasn't an effort to growth hack my audience. It wasn't some kind of land grab. And I certainly didn't look at it as a way to make money. It was just something that I loved doing. It was an authentic expression of my creative voice. And so over the last 5 years, without fail, I have uploaded a new episode every Monday. To date, I have 347 episodes, I believe, and I've never missed a single week. Consistency has been king in growing the show to the point where it reaches as many people as it does today. So for those of you out there that have a spark of inspiration, you have this impulse to create something, maybe you want to write a book, you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to run your first 5K, whatever it is, The lesson that I want to leave you with today, the insight that I want to provide you with, is that you don't have to have it all figured out at the beginning. The important thing is that you just begin. So if you have that spark, if you are inspired to do something, don't fall victim to analysis paralysis. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to know where it's going to lead you, but you do need to do one thing, and that is begin. The second thing I would say is release yourself from that pressure to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. In fact, your first stabs at anything are going to be probably not so good or bad. I can't even go back and listen to the first 50 or so episodes of the podcast that I did because I cringe. I'm so much of a better interviewer now than I was back then. But that is beside the point. The point is you have to get over that self-imposed sense of having to do it great the first time out, because you're gonna fail. So embrace that failure. Failure is part of the process of growth and maturity. Just focus on what you love and don't be afraid to fail. In fact, welcome it. Fail often. The other thing is it's fine and cool and awesome to be inspired by other people out in the world. If you want to start a YouTube channel, follow the people that inspire you, that are doing amazing things, and allow their insight and their example to inform your path. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to find your own voice, because it is your unique perspective that is the ultimate differentiator. It is the one thing that nobody else has. And so invest in yourself and determine what that voice is, and devote yourself to bringing that specific, unique, beautiful aspect of who you are to the surface, and share that with the world. Another thing to understand and to appreciate is that it's never too late. When I was 31 years old, I was drunk and in rehab where I lived for 100 days. I had no future at that point in time. I was completely alone in the world. And by the time I was 40, I was not only depressed, I was despondent in the midst of this existential crisis, completely confused about what I was going to do with my life. It wasn't until I was about 43 or 44 years old where I really started to connect with my interior life, with my spiritual life, and began to express myself more authentically. This book, Finding Ultra, that I wrote didn't come out until, I was 44 or 45 years old. And I started the podcast at that point, and now I'm 51. I'm an old man, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. You're probably 20, 30 years younger than me. So it is never too late. I'm still deeply in love with doing the podcast, and my promise to you over the next 30 million downloads is to continue to hone my craft, to become a better interviewer, to find the absolute best guests that I can, and deliver to you the finest, most helpful, most insightful content to help raise the bar on your own personal life experience. And I'll leave you with this. If you have that spark of inspiration, if you feel compelled or inspired to make something, to express yourself, to create, understand one fundamental truth, and it is this: the world needs more of who you really are. And with that, go out and make something awesome. Oh, and one final note, I almost forgot. My friend Gary V sent me 4 copies of his new book, Crushing It. If you have not read this book, please check it out. It's great. It was #2 on Amazon last week. I'm one of the case studies in the book. I think there's 3 or 4 pages about my story in here. I'm really grateful and honored that he would include me in this book. I also am the voice of the audio book, not the whole book, but about 30% of it. I read all the male case studies in the book. The audio book comes out this spring or summer. I'm not sure exactly when, but in the meantime, the hard copy is available wherever you buy books. And I'm gonna give these 4 copies away. So to enter to win, just leave a comment below explaining why you think you should be the proud recipient of Crushing It, and I'll select those 4 people and mail them out. All right, cool. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a while, like I said, since I've kind of spoken directly to camera. If you'd like to see me do more of this stuff, let me know below as well. Subscribe, do all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you guys back here soon. Peace.